In the 4th year of pursuing Mary, she finally agreed to marry me. But on the day of the wedding, she ran away with another man dressed in a suit. I chased after her without a second thought, but she said, "George, can't you be more magnanimous? He's in critical condition right now, and I must go to him. We can hold the wedding after." Just then, a notification sound suddenly rang in my ear. Ding dong, mission accomplished. A smile of relief spread across my face as I slowly let go. Since my freshman year, I have been a devoted pursuer of Mary. My level of attentiveness is simply astonishing. Whether day or night, as long as Mary has a need, I will immediately appear by her side, bringing water, delivering breakfast, saving seats. These are all trivial matters. To buy her a limited edition handbag, I would even stand in line for several hours in the rain. My classmates around me are puzzled by my behavior. They often mock me, questioning why someone with my own good qualities would humbly seek to please Mary, as if I couldn't survive without her. In fact, they were only partially right. In a sense, I really do feel that I can't live without Mary. At first, Mary always coldly rejected my advances because in her heart there was always a white moonlight of studying abroad. Later, perhaps my persistence moved her, or perhaps she found it convenient to have me around. She gradually got used to my presence. Occasionally, when we went out to have fun, she would invite me, but mostly it was to have me foot the bill. Her friends would call me brother-in-law on the surface, but behind my back, they were all mocking me. Mary was well aware of this, yet she never put a stop to it. The turning point happened in my sophomore year when Mary and her friends went camping in the mountains. On the way back, the car suddenly broke down in the middle of the night. She called me, but due to poor signal in the mountains, I couldn't hear the details clearly. I only vaguely heard her asking me to come pick her up before dawn. I hardly drove up the mountain when I arrived. I found that there were 5 of them, and I was only driving a small car. After a moment of thought, Mary said, "George, we are exhausted from camping these past few days and really can't wait any longer. How about I take your car and drive them back first? Once we're out of the mountains and have a signal, we'll call a car to come pick you up." At that moment, a notification sound rang in my ears, and I agreed without hesitation. Mary drove away with her friends while I waited alone in the mountains all night, nearly freezing to death. Fortunately, I later encountered another group of campers on the mountain road, which led to my rescue. Because I caught a chill in the mountains, I had a high fever for several days and eventually developed pneumonia, which landed me in a hospital. When Mary came to see me, she apologized with a reluctant expression, saying that after leaving the mountains that day, she had just heard that a friend was in trouble, and in her sadness, she went to a bar, forgetting about me. I lowered my head, not wanting her to see the expression on my face, and softly said, if it weren't for someone happening to come into the mountains, I might have frozen to death there. She clicked her tongue impatiently and then said in a condescending tone, "But nothing really happened, right? How about this? It was indeed my fault this time. To make it up to you, I agree to your pursuit. Let's be together." I never thought my first love would start so abruptly. I was momentarily stunned, my fingers unconsciously curling up, my nails digging into my palm without me even noticing. After a moment, I took a deep breath and agreed to her. Later, I learned that Mary drank because her white moonlight was engaged abroad and the bride was not her. She was heartbroken and turned to alcohol. After being with Mary, she became more reckless. She said she wasn't used to takeout, so I suggested hiring a cook for her. But she frowned and said, "George, is it really that hard to eat the food you make? It's just cooking. Can you learn from me? Or is it that you can't let go of your young master attitude?" So these hands of mine, which were originally only used for playing the piano, began to learn how to cook. Mary loves fish, so the first dish I learned to make was braised fish. At first, my skills were clumsy, and I accidentally got splashed on the back of my hand with scalding hot oil, causing a blister. But I still joyfully brought the fish to the table, as trying new things gave me a sense of accomplishment. I watched with anticipation as Mary slowly picked up a piece of fish with her chopsticks and put it in her mouth. But the next second, she frowned and spat the fish out, saying, "Yuck, it's disgusting." She put down her chopsticks and said, "George, are you doing this on purpose?" I read online that men deliberately do household chores poorly so that women won't ask them to do it again. I thought you would be an exception, but it turns out you were just like those men, as expected. Well, never mind. I know she's comparing me to her ideal, but I really tried hard. I spent the whole day working on this dish and ruined 3 or 4 fish. Seeing her disdainful expression, my empty stomach suddenly cramped for some reason. I held out my blistered hand under Mary's nose and said, "Mary, I really am not what you say I am. Look, I hurt my hand just trying to cook." Mary just lowered her eyes and said, "You're right, clumsy and useless. You can't do anything right." At that moment, I really wanted to stand up and slap her, then tell her I'd had enough. But the notification sound in my ear calmed my anger, and I held back, comforting myself that if I just endured a little longer, everything would be all right. At first, when I got close to Mary, I didn't reject her. In fact, I even thought she wasn't a bad person. Although she seemed a bit arrogant, she would feed the stray cats at school, gently give directions to parents looking for their children, and politely refuse. Advances from boys who showed interest in her. Never understood why she was so harsh towards me until one time when I attended a dinner with her and her friends. I arrived late due to traffic. As I was about to push the door open to enter the private room, I heard her friend ask her, "Mary, what's it like to have George as your boyfriend? I heard you've given him a hard time, but he really seems to care for you. If you ask me, you two were a good match, so why not just enjoy it?" Mary scoffed and said, "He's not worthy. He's just a sycophant. If it weren't for his money, would I even look at him? And by the way, don't bring up that futile nonsense about social status in front of me again. I don't want to hear it." I finally understood that Mary not only despised me, but also loved the social status that separated her from her ideal love. As for my identity, her parents were quite satisfied. She couldn't let go of her luxurious lifestyle while wanting to pursue so-called pure love, which is why she was so conflicted. Since then, I began to avoid contact with Mary, but I couldn't escape this task that I entered junior year. Mary planned to start a business. Her family was engaged in a traditional industry that had gradually declined in recent years. She felt this was a great opportunity to prove her abilities. Without hesitation, I took out all my savings to help her. However, due to insufficient market research, she quickly lost all the money. She became somewhat despondent, as if she was beginning to see the essence of life. That night, when the company went bankrupt, she drank a lot and held on to me, saying, "George, I'm glad to have you by my side." I slightly turned my head to avoid showing the disdain on my face, then gently asked her, "Mary, do you love me?" She didn't answer, only looked up as if to kiss me. My heart was filled with irony, and I stopped her kiss, saying, "Mary, I'm not forcing you. We can talk when you're ready. I'll go make you some hangover soup." In the 3 years we were together, we never had an intimate relationship. Every time I wanted to take a step further, she refused, citing her conservative beliefs. I didn't push it. After all, she wanted to remain pure for her ideal love, and I didn't want to force her. Later, with the support of her parents, Mary started her business again. This time, her company quickly began to thrive. The success in her career alleviated her mental stress, and her attitude towards me softened significantly. We spent the best year of our relationship together until her first love returned to the country to start a business and had a car accident, leaving me alone at the wedding. The wedding was an outdoor ceremony I meticulously designed, with a blue sky, lush green grass, and breathtaking scenery. Although I regret that the person standing opposite me to make vows is not someone else, I feel that this is something I owe to Mary as a form of repayment. Miss Mary, do you take Mr. George to be your husband in whatever circumstances you may encounter in the future, whether in good times or bad, in sickness or in health? Will you continue to respect him, embrace him, and never leave him?" Just as Mary was about to respond, her bridesmaid suddenly rushed over and whispered a few words in her ear. Mary's expression changed dramatically, and she turned and ran out of the venue. I chased after her, holding the ring and shouting, "Mary!" Everyone present today were prominent figures in the business world. My parents and I couldn't afford to lose face at the wedding of young Master George. The bride publicly ran away from the marriage, which was simply a tremendous humiliation. I held her hand and pleaded humbly, "Don't go. At least wait until our wedding is over. I'm begging you." Mary frowned and said, "George, be more generous. Tom is in the hospital, and his life is in danger. I need to go be with him. Isn't a matter of life and death more important than this false ceremony of a wedding?" I said, "I would marry you, and I will. We can have a more extravagant wedding later." After she finished speaking, I still held on to her hand tightly. She impatiently shook off my arm and threw her wedding dress onto me. At that moment, a loud notification sound rang in my ears. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for completing the tormenting love task. Transaction completed. Wishing you a pleasant life ahead. My parents hurried over to help me, but I couldn't help but laugh softly. I am finally free. George, have finally broken free from the shackles. During the summer vacation after graduating from high school, I was sent to the hospital by the housekeeper due to frequent falls while walking. After a comprehensive examination, I was diagnosed with myotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. The incidence of this disease is extremely low, affecting only 4 to 6 people per 100,000, but it is a more cruel terminal illness than cancer. That's why my parents rushed back from abroad overnight. My mom pretended to comfort me, saying she had arranged the best doctors for me overseas and that I would definitely get better. But behind my father's back, she was sobbing uncontrollably in his arms. In one hand, I held my college acceptance letter, and in the other, I clutched a note from the person I liked. My mind kept replaying the 4 smiles on my parents' faces, and I couldn't help but collapse on the bed and cry. My life had just begun, yet I was about to face death. How could I accept this? Just when I was filled with despair, something claiming to be a sadomasochistic system found me. It said its previous host had failed in their mission and had already died, but it needed energy to leave this world. If I was willing to temporarily bind with it and provide it with sadomasochistic value, it could heal my body. I wiped my tears and calmly asked, "Why should I trust you?" It said, "The results of tomorrow's re-examination will prove everything." As it turned out, the system indeed had this capability. The next day, all my body indicators returned to normal. The doctor was very confused and asked me to have regular checkups. Why was I chosen? I asked the system in confusion. It replied, "Because your attributes are most similar to my original host, which can reduce the energy consumption of rebinding." "Then this target for G?" I asked uncertainly, holding on to a glimmer of hope. But the system's answer quickly shattered my fantasy. "It will choose the person whose data is closest to the original target." Does she need to fall in love with me? No, you are a temporary host. You just need to love her, let her suffer emotionally and physically for you, and when the love-hate value reaches 100%, the system will automatically unbind from me. Actually, your real name is the dog-licking system, isn't it? In response, I heard a crackling sound of electricity. I agreed to the binding, and after the system went dormant in my body, I didn't have any more problems throughout the entire holiday. The doctor said it might have been a misdiagnosis, but only I know the truth. I was able to go to college as I wished, and my parents' faces once again showed smiles, except for that note buried at the bottom of the drawer, unseen by the light of day, that I can't tell anyone about the system. I don't know how long it will take to regain my freedom. Why should I delay her? Since I met Mary in my freshman year, the system prompted me to pursue her. Today, after she called off the wedding, for whole years have passed. It has finally come to an end. I stood up and walked to the center of the venue, a smile I couldn't suppress on my face. The guests below whispered among themselves, thinking I had gone mad with anger. I picked up the microphone and said, "I want to thank everyone present today for attending my wedding, but unfortunately, there has been a small situation. What I want to say is that there may be countless reasons for 2 people to come together, but it often only takes one to give up. My bride, Mary, and I seem to be fated to part, and since that is the case, I hope this entanglement can be severed more thoroughly. I ask all the elders present to witness that from today on, I, George, will cut all ties with Mary and have no further relations." After I finished speaking, I bowed and left the stage. Mary's parents excitedly stopped me. "George, don't say things in anger. Mary is just being willful. It's just a moment of impulse. If you make a scene like this now, how will you two hold the wedding later?" After looking for so long, everyone around Mary thought I couldn't live without her. Even her parents forgot that marrying me was actually a step up for her. I smiled slightly and said, "Annie, there's no wedding to redo." "Excuse me?" Mary's parents still wanted to argue, but my parents instructed the security to stop them. On the way home, I felt an unprecedented sense of ease. My mom looked at me and asked, "Have you made up your mind?" I replied softly, my eyes a bit moist. When I first started pursuing Mary, my parents thought I was just... As a young person experiencing the fervor of first love, I often sacrificed my self-esteem for her. They sensed something was wrong and even suspected I had been cursed. For a while, they forced me to break up with Mary, but no matter how they tried to persuade me, I remained silent. In the end, they had no choice but to accept my relationship with Mary, which inadvertently gave her more leverage over me. When the night was deep and quiet, I still felt that the experiences of this day were somewhat unreal. Has it really ended like this? I no longer have to keep my phone on 24 hours a day for anyone, and I no longer have to force myself to greet her with a smile in response to her difficult demeanor. I sat up in bed and took out the note that had been pressed under the drawer for 4 years. As the years passed, the paper had slightly yellowed, and it only had one sentence written on it. "Okay, let's go watch the sunrise." I think the morning light that was missed at 18 will probably never shine on 22-year-old George again. When Mary came to the door, our whole family was happily having breakfast. After the butler announced her arrival, the atmosphere at the dining table instantly became tense. My parents were both cautiously watching me. Seeing this, I felt a sharp pain in my heart and immediately said, "Get her out of here. If she doesn't leave, throw dirty water on her." The butler looked troubled and said, "Young master, we don't have any dirty water in our house." My dad coughed twice, smiled, and said, "Isn't the garden being fertilized recently? Use that, mix it with some water." Mary had been splashed with water for 3 consecutive days, yet she still lingered at my doorstep every day. I was indeed feeling a surge of anger that I hadn't expressed, so I had the butler let her in. In the garden, I sat under the sunshade, leisurely sipping orange juice. Mary stood under the blazing sun, her makeup slightly smudged, frowning at me, and said, "George, what's wrong with you? How dare you treat me like this? I even texted you to apologize. What more do you want? It's just a wedding. If you keep this up, I really won't go through with it." I looked at her in a flustered state and suddenly laughed. "Mary, you don't really think I want to marry you, do you? Admittedly, you're beautiful and come from a bit of money, but I've never lacked those things, and I even have more." I hadn't finished speaking when Mary widened her eyes as if she had never known me. Indeed, in the past, at friend gatherings when she asked me to play the piano, I played. When she asked me to pay the bill, I paid without any complaints. Now, in her eyes, my behavior must seem like a dog licking and then biting. I can't help but think back to the beginning of the strategy, because the increase in emotional pain was so small. I was afraid I would really exhaust my life. So I started to try hard to fall in love with Mary, paying close attention to her preferences and understanding her thoughts. However, the more I learned, a flamboyant young man, and the other was a cold top. Performing girl in high school, I was complacent about my studies because of my decent family background. However, my deskmate Lily was completely different. She was a year younger than me and had skipped a grade. She was focused and serious in class, and she was well known as the top student in our grade. I often watched her with her glasses on, looking indifferent, and couldn't help but tease her. She always looked at me seriously and said, "Classmate George, please pay attention or you'll be last in the next exam again." Later, I found out that she really liked those small candies wrapped in colorful paper, so I bought a whole jar and gave it to her. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at the candy and then at me. That expression deeply etched in my heart, making it hard for me to forget for a lifetime. Later on, perhaps moved by her dedication to studying, I also began to work hard. Problems that could clearly be solved by hiring a tutor, I insisted on having her explain them to me. She would take a pen and repeatedly work through the problems on scratch paper for me, then ask if I understood. If I said I did, she would praise me with words like, "George, you're very smart," or "George, you've made great progress," which are the kind of things one might say to a child, but I found them particularly encouraging at that time. Only I knew that Lily, on the surface, was a super academic representing the school in the provincial competition, but behind the scenes, she was a little bookworm who would even forget to eat. Gradually, I found that the little bookworm cherished every book she had, even her textbooks. She loved eating the fish her mother made and could eat it for 3 days straight. She always read science magazines, determined to become a scientist, and said that girls could shine and make contributions in the field of research as well. Unknowingly, it seems that I have started to like this little bookworm a bit. The day before the college entrance examination, I leaned over my desk watching Lily as she focused on solving problems and softly said, "Lily, after the exam is over, can I go watch the sunrise with you?" Lily's pen paused for a moment. Her eyelashes fluttered gently, but she didn't say anything. After returning home, I found that note in the book. Unfortunately, at the end of the story, I broke my promise. Today, seeing Lily again, she has changed a lot. The once clunky black frame glasses have been replaced with stylish gold-rimmed ones, and the short hair that was once criticized for being unattractive has grown long. Her height has shot up from 155 centimeters to 170 centimeters. Now, when she walks out, she is undoubtedly a goddess of restraint. She didn't ask me why I missed the appointment, nor did she show the surprise and enthusiasm that should come with a reunion of old classmates. Aside from initially calling my name, she referred to me as Assistant George the rest of the time. I didn't want to be a scientist, so how do I end up studying medicine? I couldn't help but ask. She replied coldly, "There is no difference. They all contribute to humanity." I guess I have really been influenced by Mary's invisible pull. If it were George 4 years ago, he would definitely have bluntly said, "Little bookworm, why are you so cold to me?" But now, I no longer have that courage. That day, as I just walked out of the company door after work, I was stopped by a stranger. He was wearing a t-shirt and looked like the kind of male college student that girls are into these days. He said, "Mr. George, I am Tom. Could you please help me?" I had heard the name Tom countless times from Mary. It is said that he is a boy whom Mary had supported during her charitable work. I had never been interested in this and had never seen his photo. I glanced at Lily, who was following closely behind me after work. As she got into the car with Tom, Tom sat in the passenger's seat, nervously tugging at the hem of his shirt, and said, "Mr. George, I know this is very presumptuous, but I really have no other options. Only you can help me." He said that Mary took his passport, insisting that he stay in the country and claiming she would support him in starting a business in the future. However, he still had unfinished work abroad and didn't want Mary's support. He was just an ordinary person, and out of respect for Mary's family, he didn't want to make things too difficult. "Mr. George, I did have a period of ambiguity with Mary during high school, but that is all in the past now, and I have no thoughts about her at all. But no matter how I explain it, she just won't listen." I raised an eyebrow and said, "If I remember correctly, Mr. Tom seems to have indirectly ruined my wedding." The implication being, why should I help him? I didn't expect Tom to look at me with a face full of surprise. I sensed something was off and asked, "Wasn't you who told someone close to Mary about Mr. Tom's serious car accident?" "Mr. George, did you misunderstand? That day, I only had a minor bruise. I didn't even need to stay in the hospital." In an instant, some details that I had previously overlooked flashed through my mind. I looked at Tom's awkward demeanor and thought that this might be a good deal. So I said, "I can help Mr. Tom, but I would also like to ask Mr. Tom for a favor." The next time I saw Mary was in a bar. I was there drinking with a few friends, which was a suggestion from my therapist to try doing things I hadn't done before. Mary, seeing me from some corner, stumbled over and tugged at me. "George, what are you doing here? Didn't I say you weren't allowed to come to the bar?" She looked me up and down, her face full of disbelief. I frowned and shook off her hand. Mary, if you don't want to drag your family's company down, it's best to avoid me from now on. Mary pretended not to understand, mumbling, George, can we not break up? Recently, my family has set me up with a lot of blind dates, but none of them treat me as well as you do. Let's get back together. I promise to treat you well from now on, and I won't. I like to speak with Mary alone, I said to her. Her mother quickly indicated that she needed to go to the bathroom. Mary said, with a hint of pride, George, you really can't forget me. Seeing her self-righteous expression, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then I tossed a voice recorder to her. Mary looked at me, asking, what is this? I replied, it is something that can completely shatter your psyche. Mary pressed the play button, and Tom's voice came through. Mr. George, to be honest, I really hate Mary right now, but her family has done me a favor, and I can't break ties with them. I've turned her down countless times, but the more I refuse, the more she thinks I truly love her and that I'm not with her for her own good. It's just so self-righteous. I've had enough of it. I went abroad to get away from her. Before the recording finished playing, Mary violently threw the voice recorder out. She said, George, do you think this will make me love you? You're just a sycophant. Even when given the chance to rise, you can't seize it. Now you want to slander Tom? He'll tell you the truth. It was Tom who invited me to go abroad. I smiled and said, think what you want. I came here today just to see you off, Mary. It must feel terrible to be completely denied by someone. Do you know why, when you started your business, I only provided the money but never introduced you to my family's resources? It's because I never loved you at all. If spending a little money could solve the problem, why would I involve my own company? Today we can consider everything settled. After saying that, I turned and left, leaving Mary fuming behind me. The white moonlight she thought was hers actually found her tiresome. The infatuated lover she believed had never loved her at all. There is still a day left until the time I agreed with Lily, so I directly called the makeup team to come over. After a long time of fussing around, I still wasn't satisfied. I remember when I was a child, my dad said that free things are the most expensive, like love, like air. Ever since I missed my appointment 4 years ago, I haven't gone to the beach to watch the sunrise again. Lily said she would wait for me at home at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep at all, so I drove to her house early and parked downstairs. To my surprise, her bedroom light was actually on. I picked up my phone and sent her a message. Lily, are you asleep? But it seems like you forgot to turn off the lights. When Lily opened the car door and sat in the passenger seat, a hint of embarrassment flashed across her usually expressionless face. I asked her, why did you come so early? She looked at me, lowered her eyes, and said, I'm afraid my heart suddenly aches. It's my fault that I said this time it will never happen again. From now on, it will never happen. On the way to the beach, I recalled my previous guesses and couldn't help but ask, Lily, I have a few questions. If you're willing, could you tell me the answers? Tom's serious injuries from the car accident were leaked to Mary by someone you arranged, right? Yes. Lily didn't look at me, but I caught a glimpse of her suddenly curled fingers out of the corner of my eye. Why? I just want to help you see whether she is really worth it. By the way, I also want to fight for myself one more time. Maybe you think I'm being scheming, but George, I have no regrets. Fool, how could I think you were scheming? I just feel sorry for you. If Mary hadn't left, would you have come? No, you didn't come 4 years ago. I had no right to disturb her life. If she hadn't left, I would wish you happiness. All these years, you have been paying attention to me, haven't you? Is it because of me that you didn't pursue research and instead chose to study medicine? It is contributing to humanity in another way. 2 years ago, Mary went camping in a particularly remote mountain, but I just happened to run into a group of people who were camping. Does that have anything to do with you? For the school club activities, I chose that mountain for them. Why has it never appeared? I'm afraid I might disturb you. I brought Lily to a place to watch the sunrise, which is considered the best viewpoint along the coast. We sat on the rocks watching the sun slowly rise from the horizon. The orange lights scattered delicately across the sea, shimmering beautifully, a sight to behold. I turned to look at Lily, only to find that she was also looking at me. A faint blush appeared on her face, and for a moment, I couldn't tell if it was the sunlight reflecting on her face or if she was blushing. Her eyes were clear, and she softly asked me, "George, we watched the sunrise together. Do you still like eating candy?" I smiled slightly and said, "I like it. I've always liked it. I just like it." Extra chapter. In the first year of marrying Lily, we returned to the seaside to watch the sunrise. However, this time was different. I brought her to a rock and said to her, "There's a secret about time here." She reached out her hand to carefully explore the stone and finally discovered something different. At the lower part of the stone, there were 4 letters Lily carved there, varying in depth. I said, "Every year on that day, I come here to watch the sunrise. Each time I watch, I carve a character. Occasionally, I fantasize about you suddenly appearing in front of me. Now the fantasy has come true." Lily buried her head in my arms and sniffled. I lowered my head and kissed her forehead. When we were in school, everyone around thought Lily was very aloof and unwilling to play with her. Only I knew that she just wasn't good at dealing with people. I don't want to pick stars. I want to run toward the bright moon.